Hey y'all, it's Danielle from Black Business Boom, and I am excited because today I get to interview candidates for the Nashville mayoral race. And our first candidate that we have today is Matt Wiltshire. And I'm really excited to have Matt. I got to attend a small business roundtable he had, I think about a couple months ago, and just
Mhm.
learned a little bit about his focus on economic development and entrepreneurship for Nashville. So I'm really excited to bring that conversation to the Black Business Boom and Black People Making Moves audience today. How are you, Matt?
Love it. I'm great. I'm the one who feels honored here. I'm excited to be with you and honored to be included in your show. Thanks for doing this for the city and thanks for doing this for your audience. I know
Absolutely.
folks really appreciate the content you put out there. So thank you for including.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for us to make it easy for folks to learn about the candidates. Everybody can't show up in person to a forum, but they want to know more. And
Sure.
so that's what I'm here to do today. And so, as I mentioned, I just have a few questions and we'll go ahead and dive on in. So, Matt, as
Yeah.
mayor, how would you plan to address the specific needs and concerns of the minority community in Nashville?
Yeah. Well, look, it's really important. Nashville has had some growth over the last decade or so, but not everybody's been able to participate equally in that success. And let me also just start off by saying there isn't one community, right? There aren't monoliths out there. It's important that everyone from every part of the county, from every background, feels like they have and genuinely has the opportunity to participate in the success of the city. And as you may know, I think as we talked about previously, I served as the director of economic and community development when I was in the mayor's office for 8 years under three different mayors. And during that time, I worked with Council Member Maynard, Jerry Maynard, and Council Member Fabian Bedney to create the very first small business incentive that had ever happened in Nashville, and the first one we could find from around the country. And that really emphasized investing in small businesses that were growing in Nashville, fast growing small businesses, and encouraging investment in parts of our city that had been neglected for far too long. And those were really successful programs, but we have a lot more work that we need to do. And those are the kinds of things that I'm committed to continuing to work on. I've got some policy papers in my website that folks can take a look at that have maybe more detail than we'd have a chance to get into here. But my website is wiltshire.com. So just my last name, WILTSHIRE.com. And there's some policy papers there. Would love to take questions from folks. You can send me a message through the website in addition to the great questions that you've got here.
I love it. That is very important. And, me being an advocate and a champion for small business, I think that we've seen some good things that have happened over the last year and a half or so in economic development in Nashville, specifically the Nashville Small Business Recovery Fund that allotted $9 million in grants and $9 million in loans for small business owners. And so I think that some of that work is really important, and the financial investment in small businesses is really important. So I would love for us to talk a little bit more about that, because I think that there are some that feel like, you can give folks money, or you should give folks money to invest in the growth of small businesses, and others that feel like, maybe we pour other resources or we do other things. So I'm curious about your thoughts around how we support and pour into small businesses in Nashville.
Yeah. And let me first start off by commending the work that Courtney Pogue did when he was in the mayor's office. I'm sad that he is no longer there. There's been a lot written about that, but Courtney is a supporter of mine. And I consider him to be a great advisor as well. And that program that you talked about, he worked on with some of the council members, Quante Toombs, and some of the leadership in the minority caucus, in particular, in the mayor's in the Metro Council. I think, look, through contracting and through other forms of engagement that the city has with business owners, small business owners, and large business owners, the city needs to be open for business and needs to be an easier place for folks to do work. And for far too long, there have been barriers to folks feeling like they have an opportunity to compete fairly for contracts with the city. And we need to break some of those barriers down. And the reason is because wouldn't you rather have everyone have a seat at the table? Why would you want to have only a few folks have a seat at the table? That's not good for the city as a buyer. It's not good for the dynamic economy in the city. And so it's really, for me, just about making sure that everyone has the opportunity to participate with the city, the opportunity to participate in the success of the city, have access to capital, which has been a huge issue for a lot of small businesses. And there are active steps that we can take as a city to make sure that the businesses here, started mostly by locals, but also by folks who move here, have a genuine opportunity to participate in the success of the city. And that has not happened nearly enough.
I love it. And that's so important. Many times we are looking for grants. We are looking for, those type of capital opportunities when really, if we got a contract, it could be life changing for us, right? Like to be able to go out and get a contract for, 200,000, $1 million to support the city or support the growth of the new stadium, whatever it might be, that could truly be life changing for us and help us to bridge that gap of and build generational wealth for
Absolutely.
minority communities. So a really hot topic. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, well, I was just going to add to that. One is making sure that those opportunities exist, and two, making sure that there's mentorship in place. I mean, for anybody who's moving from $100,000 contract to a $300,000 contract, or a $300,000 contract to $1 million contract, that's a big jump, and it's helpful to have support and advice. There are business owners out there who are great at doing their business, but when you take that leap, there may be new challenges that they're not used to facing. And we don't want to set folks up for failure. We want to make sure that we're setting folks up for success, because that's vital for our city. So it's all those pieces coming together. And I think the business proposed Freeman Business Center at Fisk is one example of that. The Entrepreneur Center, SBIC, Nashville Business Incubation Center. There are some good resources out there, as you and some of your viewers, I'm sure, understand, but it's about making sure that those are easier to navigate and a better fabric to work.
Man, you took the words out of my mouth, Matt. I love it. Yeah, I mean, that's
we're vibing here.
Yeah, we are. I'm like, I keep saying there are amazing resources for small business owners that exist here in Nashville. I'm from Chicago. And I've been blown away by the amount of resources that exist, but also overwhelmed by the number of resources that exist. And many folks, when they face that overwhelm, they just don't do anything, right? They don't know how to navigate this system. They don't know what the next step is. They don't know, what the next program is. Where do I go to get the capital, and how do I prepare? How do I build capacity for my business? How do I find a mentor? So it's really recently participated in a study that's being done by the city. And that was my main concern, was how does the city get behind building this ecosystem and really making it an ecosystem that right now seems very disjointed. So really happy to hear you say that.
Amen. Look, if you need a shovel and the shovel exists, but you don't know where the shovel is, it's not doing you any good. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have to make sure that those that need those resources the most know where they exist, not just those that are already kind of in a good position. We have to make sure that those small business owners, especially that are under-resourced, underserved, know where to find the resources and have the support that they need to build capacity to access those resources or access that capital. So I'll get down off my soapbox because that's what I do every day. But
no. You're preaching to the choir, but it's important to preach that sermon. I mean, look, what's really hard? This. What's really hard is being a small business owner, because you're the HR department, you're the marketing and sales department, you're the operations department, you're the payroll department. And if you're having to do all of those things, taking time out to try and figure out how to navigate the resources that exist out there is impossible. So once you get to be bigger and you can actually have an HR department, a sales department. Okay, then you have the time, but that's not when you need it as much. You need it when you're a small business owner trying to do all those things yourself.
I love it. Absolutely. Now, another hot topic is affordable housing in
Yeah.
Nashville. And, in the 7 years I've been here, it's unbelievable the growth that we've seen. And I think that, again, making sure that that growth is beneficial to all Nashvillians is really important, and making sure that it doesn't price folks out of the neighborhoods that they have grown up in or wish to live in. So I'm interested in learning about your plans for affordable housing and making sure that there is accessible housing for low income families, particularly in minority communities.
Yeah, absolutely. Really important question. And as you probably know, I spent the last 3 years working at MDHA, the Public Housing Authority, on affordable housing. But no matter what affordable housing means to you, what you're looking for is some housing that you can actually afford. And for me, the way I think about this is housing you can afford is where you're spending 30% of your income or less on housing. Whether you're a renter or an owner, you need to be spending 30% of your income or less. And it does also impact transportation, just because you got to factor that in. Should be 50% of your income on transportation and housing, because we could build a bunch of affordable housing way out, outside of town, but you'd have to spend so much money getting to where your job is. That doesn't do you any good. And so really, the cost of housing is just like the cost of any other good that your viewers might think about. It's where supply meets demand. And the simple fact is there's been a lot of demand for housing in Nashville over the last decade and not nearly enough supply created. And so, again, what's affordable to me, may not be affordable to somebody else. And what's affordable to you may not be affordable to me. And so we need to have housing at a variety of price points, again, both ownership and rental. And I've worked with the public sector and the private sector to make sure that there are more housing options that are available and affordable to Nashvillians. We did that in the 3 years that I was working at MDA, construct over 4,000 units of affordable and attainable housing. And that was available to folks at each part of the price point. Some of those were HUD subsidized, very low income housing, where you're spending 30% of your income on your rent, no matter if you're making $100 a month or $1,000 a month. And then we had workforce housing units that were affordable to folks making 60% of area median income, and then market rate units. Because in my mind, we're best off when we're all living in community with each other. And that's not to force that on anyone, but at least create the opportunities, because I think far too often in our society today, we're just all going off to our separate corners and folks aren't interacting with each other as much. And so having integrated housing is really important to me. I grew up going to Edge Hill United Methodist Church. Bill Barnes was my pastor growing up. As you may know, Bill is the person after whom the Barnes Affordable Housing Trust Fund is named. And he preached every Sunday about integration as community and community building, and in particular in the area of housing.
I love it. Wonderful. This has been great. I got one last question.
Oh, no, I wish there were 10 more, but I'll take one more.
And that's around education, because it is really a vital aspect of community development. And so I've heard some of your thoughts around education in Nashville public schools. So I would love for my audience to learn a little bit about your plans for really closing the gap and making sure that minority students in Nashville public schools are getting what they need to be successful and build successful careers and futures as well.
Yeah, no, look, this is the most important thing that we'll work on as mayor, in part because it's connected to each other thing. And your audience knows this, but having great performing schools means kids are going to be relatively more engaged in building a life and building a career, and relatively fewer of them are going to be seduced over to a life of crime. I mean, that's what the data have shown. And we need to have, and we can have, the best performing public education system in the entire country. Housing becomes affordable when the cost of housing comes down, but also when incomes come up. The same house may not be affordable to me if I'm making $40,000 a year, but if I'm making $70,000 a year, all of a sudden that house is affordable to me because it's less than 30% of my income for rent or for my mortgage. So education's tied to everything. And I feel this very deeply. I am a product of Metro Nashville Public Schools. My wife and I have 6 kids between us. Please pray for us on that. We're a blended family. She had 3 and I had 2. And we got married and we had 1 together. So we've got 5 teenagers and a 5-year-old.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's a lot. But each one of the 5 older kids has attended Metro Nashville Public Schools. Our daughter will start there in August next month. And my oldest graduated from Hillsborough last year. And so it's something that's just vital. And I'll just end with this story because it's what really motivates me. You can read the numbers, read the data, talk about the policies, talk about the proposals. But the reason that it's important to me ties back to my time working at MDHA. Our offices were in Casey Homes. And I would often think as I was leaving work each day, there is a girl living somewhere here in Casey Homes who, like, if she had the opportunity, could do an amazing thing, like write the next great American novel or song or create the next app or start the next amazing business. But she will never have that opportunity because our system is just inequitable right now. And that is a tremendous loss for that girl and for her family. But it's a loss for our entire society that because of the structural breakdowns in our society that we're going to miss out on what she would be able to contribute. And that is just unacceptable. And so that's why I'm running for mayor. That's what I'm committed to. And that's what I hope to be able to accomplish as your mayor of the next 8 years.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Matt. It was a pleasure. Again, I got the opportunity to learn a lot about your platform at the Small Business Roundtable. So I'm really excited to be able to get you in front of the audience that I have and for them to learn more about you and your platform as well. We will keep in touch, and please tell folks if they want to learn more about you, about your platform, or want to support, what is the best way for them to do that?
Absolutely. And thank you again for this opportunity. So early voting starts on Friday, July 14th. Election day is August 3rd. If no one gets to 50% plus 1 vote, then there'll be a runoff on September 14th. But get out and vote early. My name, again, it's right there on the screen, Matt Wiltshire. My website is just my last name.com. So WILTSHIRE.com. I'm asking for your vote. If you really like what you see, I'm asking for a donation. We've got a ton of momentum right now, but we need to continue to get our message out. And I'm just very grateful for this opportunity and for the chance to chat with you again. It's good to see you.
Wonderful. And I did get one question in the comments, and it's a really great one that I meant to include. So I'm glad they reminded me. We have seen an uptick in violence in some of the areas in Nashville, and that's definitely a concern. So curious about your thoughts and plans to address some of the uptick in violence that we've seen over the last few years.
Absolutely. It's a great question. And as I referenced a little bit earlier, these things are all sort of related to each other. Because if you have opportunities for folks, look, crimes are still going to happen, but there are going to be relatively fewer people who decide to harm their neighbors if they have a strong opportunity for themselves into the future. So for me, it really comes down to 2 things. One is we need to be investing long-term. And these investments have a long payback to them. This isn't going to change the situation tomorrow, but we need to be investing in summer youth employment opportunities, investing in having the best public education system in the country, investing in programs like Nashville Grad to help folks get into and complete community college. Those things give folks a pathway to a better future so they're less likely to commit crime and to harm their neighbors. And that's really important. Those things take a long time to pay off, though. Let me be clear. Some of them aren't going to pay off until long after I've been mayor, but they are absolutely worth making. And we need to make them. In the short term, to address the uptick in crime today, I think we do need to have a fully staffed police force. And we need to follow the model that we set when I was at MDHA. We actually had an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with the police department, where we paid extra money to the police department to get extra shifts at MDHA properties and to get police officers out of their cars into the community, building relationships, working with folks. And when we did that, we saw a precipitous decrease in crime because folks were invested in their neighborhood, had relationships, didn't see the police as much of a threat as they were a guardian to help them and keep them safe. And that model is exactly what we need to follow as a city. And that's what I commit to do as your mayor.
Wonderful. I love it. Thank you so much, Matt. This has been great. I really appreciate you spending some time with me today. You guys have the website. So if you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to Matt via his website and also on social media as well. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. And thank you so much for joining me today, Matt. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks. You too. Really appreciate it.